So here's our learning target for this video. I can complete half-life calculations. So let's start out by what is half-life. The half-life is the time required for 1/2 of the sample to decay. So what that means is it's the time that it takes it for half the sample to change into a new isotope, like you see in nuclear decay. So for example, if you start with 100 grams of a substance, the amount left after one half-life would be half of 100. So 50 grams. And then after two half-lives, we would have half of our half. So half of 50 is 25 grams. And then after three half-lives, we would have half of our half of our half. So we would have 12.5 grams left over. Now let's say that one half-life, it took this to happen, it took, let's say, 10 years for half of the sample to decay. So then after 20 years, we would have our 25 grams, and then after 30 years, we would have 12.5. Excuse me. So let's look at a typical problem that you might see. Iron 59 has a half-life of 44.5 days. How much of a 2-gram sample will remain after 133.5 days? So it's always a good idea to underline information in your problem to help keep you focused on what you need to find and what you've got. So for this example, we know we start with 2 grams. So that's how much we start with, okay, at the beginning. Now, we want to figure out how much we have after 133.5 days. So we have to figure out how many half-lives that is. So we know that one half-life is 44.5 days, and we have 133.5. So if we do 133.5 days divided by 44.5 days, then we get 3 half-lives. Alright, so we start with 2 grams. Then after one half-life, we have 1 gram. So this is 1 half-life. Then after a second half-life, we have 0.5 grams. So that's 2 half-lives. And then after a third half-life, we have 0.25 grams left over. And so that is our answer. So make sure you know how much you start with, how many half-lives you have to go through on this particular problem. Now, on another type of problem, we start with 10 grams if we have a half-life of 2.75 years. Now I keep using years. It can be minutes or seconds, and that's okay. So how much remains after 4 half-lives? And then how many years will this take? So we've got to go 4 half-lives. So that means if we're starting with this number line, alright, here's our start point. So after 1 half-life, we have 5 grams. After 2 half-lives, we have 2.5 grams. And remember that these are your half-lives, so 1 half-life, 2 half-lives, 3 half-lives. So half of 2.5 is 1.25 grams, and then we go 1 more for that 4th half-life, and we get 0.625 grams. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so how much remains? That's our answer to this question. How much remains? 0.625 grams. And then it asks how many years will this take? Well, each one of these half-lives here is equal to 2.75 years. Alright, so if we have 4 half-lives, we multiply that by 4. And I'm sorry, I don't have a calculator. Let me grab it real quick. So 2.75 times 4, that gives me 11 years.